Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. Just a quick reminder, Church Militant is on the ground in Rome covering the Synod, bringing you every bit of what you need to know each day. Our Rome correspondent, Jules Gomez, reviews the day's happenings on Church Militant's Rome Dispatch, which is hosted right here in Detroit by our own Brad Eli every weekday. We're providing a link to Rome Dispatch here in the Vortex every day for the month of October. So be sure not miss a single episode of Rome Dispatch. It's a one-stop shopping for you each day on all the news from the Synod, concise and straightforward. Now today, as we've covered repeatedly in multiple Vortex episodes, the communist path to power in Western democracies has been and is being accomplished through elections, which does contain within itself its own irony, since the goal of communism ultimately is to seize complete and total control and destroy fair elections in the process. But there's a backstage game going on, a clever disguise whereby first institutions were overrun, so minds could be controlled through propaganda, so they would vote for policies which made sense to the brainwashed. Once a sufficient number of voters over a few decades, again convinced by the propaganda that the left loves and cares for them, it does not, the scales would eventually tip. That's the plan. They would win majorities, and then nothing would be left to stand in their way. And that's happening right now as we sit here. The propaganda machine in high gear on college campuses and mainstream media networks throughout the nation for decades have been inculcating in people's minds a slew of false flags so they can create a narrative that death and destruction will shortly follow if their agenda is not implemented immediately. It's always a crisis. Of course, the not-so-underlying theme is they must be elected to save the immigrants, save the poor, save the earth, save the whales, and a host of other causes in which they cast themselves as the noble savior. When it comes to saving the immigrant in particular, things are beginning to reveal themselves which upend their narrative about the southern border. And the challenge to their propaganda is not coming from the Republican establishment, but from what you could style the new breed Republicans, beholden much more to principles than party, it seems. Yes, they will work within the party system, the structure, but challenge that status quo of not really protecting citizens and the republic. Among the causes they have taken up is derailing the narrative of climate change being caused by man, and of course protecting the borders. And on that score, a broadside offensive has begun over the topic of child sex trafficking and the complicity of it by the US bishops, the anti-American policy of theirs allowing millions of illegals unfettered entry. The bishops have pulled down billions in taxpayer dollars, specifically through their agency, Catholic Charities. But now, the tie-in between the bishop's agency and child sex trafficking, not just illegal immigration, but that component of it, child sex trafficking, that's now being exposed. At the recent annual gathering of the state Republican Party on Michigan's Mackinac Island, Christina Karamo, chair of the party, of the GOP party here in Michigan, laid it on the line about Catholic Charities.
When I was talking to people, the other thing they talked about were the children. The children who are being smuggled across the border. How these organizations front as Catholic Charities, and they're not Catholic Charities. They're actually cartel front groups to then take these children and send them to the American pimps who will then sell them on the streets of our country.
Catholic Charities, and by extension the U.S. bishops, are coming under increasing scrutiny, fire really, over this question of their collecting billions in tax dollars, supporting policies that undermine the very nation they're getting the tax dollars from. And it's not just in Michigan by new breed Republicans, but on Capitol Hill as well, where a growing number of U.S. congressmen are demanding answers. With the U.S. House still in the throes of the debate and vote on the speakership position, this, along with all business, has been momentarily forestalled, but it won't stay that way for long. One of the first things on the agenda for multiple members of Congress once business resumes is grilling Catholic Charities and the bishops over this whole illegal immigration industry they have constructed. And with the wild success of the box office blockbuster Sound of Freedom, You can bet that child sex trafficking will also be on that docket. And as we all know, when it comes to child sex abuse, well, that's a topic the bishops do not want to have come up again. The whole save the immigrants narrative of the Democrats is beginning to unravel. And when it does, the bishops are going to have once again to be found to be on the wrong side of history, on the side of the left, undermining the republic, not to mention cashing in on the backs of children. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.